everybody. I'm Steve Levy. I'm your host of the On the Right Side podcast. We come to you live every Wednesday at 2 p.m. here at the America First Warehouse on Long Island. Thank you, Joe DeBox, who's in the studio today, for everything he does in making this possible to present to this audience so many outstanding features, podcasts, book signings, TV programs. You got to go to the website at America First Warehouse to really find out all the amazing things that happen in this mecca of patriotism here in Ronkonkoma. If you're ever in the New York area, you have to stop by if you're a patriot. I'm usually joined by David Zare, my co-host on the Right Side, but today he is embedded with Pete Hegseth at the Pentagon doing some good work for Real America's Voice. As I said at the top of the show, I'm Steve Levy. I'm a former Suffolk County Executive, New York State Assemblyman. I'm a inside writer for Newsmax, and I run the think tank Center for Cost-Effective Government. Today's show, I want to get a little educational, rather than me and David talking about current events and having a good time with it. I wanted to go over at least 3 different items that really gnaw at me, and it usually gets up my dander when I'm looking at these debate shows on TV, especially these CNN debate shows, where the libs from the media and some of the Democratic panelists just spread falsehoods. And most of the time you have good Republican counterweights to push back. Sometimes, though, they're not very well educated on some of these issues, and a lot of falsehoods, a lot of total garbage gets through as being fact in these debate programs on these liberal networks. There's 3 of them I want to talk about today. 2 of them involve Barack Obama, who I think was one of the most disappointing presidents in our nation's history. One has to do with this myth that he was a deporter-in-chief. We're going to go back to some articles and look at the facts to show that the real immigration surge, the illegal immigration surge, started under Obama in 2014. We're going to tell you how he played with the stats. We're also going to talk about Obama's horrible Iran nuclear deal, which many Democratic pundits and some of these libs like Abby Phillips on the CNN show say, well, if only we stayed with that, Iran wouldn't have nukes today. It's exactly the opposite. We're going to get into that as well. But another thing that really ruffles my feathers is when I see so many of these pundits now saying that ICE is acting unconstitutionally, doing things illegally, seizing people illegally. They need these warrants. Let's get into that, especially with the warrants, because the objective of Democrats has been, as we know for many years now, gum up the works. Do anything they can to prevent any deportations. It's not just stopping the bagel worker or the person who's been there for 5 years and hasn't committed a subsequent crime since crossing the border illegally. They're even fighting the deportation of the criminals, though they'll say they don't. So they'll try to make it as hard as possible for ICE to deport anyone, and we know why. Because the more illegal aliens they have in this country, the more that get counted in the census in these blue states and cities that are losing population because they're unaffordable. People are going to Texas, Florida, Tennessee, and those states are gaining electoral votes, while New York, California, Illinois would lose those votes, except for the fact that you can count illegal aliens. So they want them to come in and they want them to stay. So what's the latest ploy by the Democrats? We need warrants, judicial warrants for ICE before they can detain and deport an illegal alien. It's a bunch of bunk. They're playing word games, and it's important for you to know this when these debates go back with people you might know, or when you see falsehoods being spewed on the airwaves. There is a difference, folks, between an administrative warrant and a judicial warrant. A judicial warrant comes from a sitting judge. Takes a long time to get anything through a judge sitting on a bench. You know it. Takes years at times, okay? That is why Congress created a law that said when it comes to deporting an illegal alien or detaining them, you don't need a judicial warrant from a judge sitting on a bench. You need an administrative warrant, which is a warrant issued by a person designated by the head of DOJ and Homeland Security as an arbiter who can determine whether or not that person is here illegally. And if that individual in the administrative process issues an administrative warrant, that is sufficient now, as it has always been, to detain and deport these illegal aliens. But now you've got Adam Schiff and all of these other libs saying, oh no, that's unconstitutional. You need a judicial warrant, which they know would take forever and make it damn near impossible for ICE to do its job and deport anyone. We took some excerpts, especially from these folks at the Heritage Foundation. Hans von Spakovsky is a phenomenal scholar on this issue. Here's some of the things he writes in his text at the Heritage Foundation. Let's do asset number one here, guys. You guys can read along with me, okay? Critics of the Trump administration's enforcement of federal immigration law, including members of the public, the media, notice how I said the media earlier, and Congress, have made misleading claims about due process rights that apply in immigration proceedings. Those who claim that non-citizens referred to in our nation's immigration laws as aliens are entitled to the full panoply of constitutional rights enjoyed by American citizens are simply wrong and fail to differentiate between criminal prosecutions and immigration proceedings, which are civil matters. Back to me, folks. Okay. Drop that asset, guys. Come back to me. That's the difference. There is a distinction when it comes to due process. Everyone says, oh, you cannot violate the due process of the illegal alien. Well, let's be clear. If there's a criminal proceeding, that is, an illegal alien is arrested and charged and indicted with rape, murder, felony assault, and there's going to be a trial, and there's the potential that that illegal alien's going to do some hard time, yes, indeed, that illegal alien has a right under the Constitution to a trial by jury, a speedy trial, and counsel, just like anyone else would, citizen or not. It makes sense. You're going to lose your freedom. That's not what we're talking about with deportation. That is a civil proceeding. It's a crime to cross the border illegally. Remember this, folks. But it's a civil action to deport that individual. So the constitutional rights to due process for a paid attorney by the state, a speedy trial, a trial by jury, do not pertain in those cases, okay? All you have to have is a hearing by an administrative officer. And when they say you're here illegal, you're out of here. But they keep playing these games in Congress to gum up the works so that they make it exceedingly difficult. Let's go to the next point that Hans von Spakovsky had said. Back to the asset, guys. There was a Supreme Court case back to 1893, okay, which, let's go back one, guys. Fong versus Yu-Teng, okay? Fong Yu-Teng versus U.S. The court added that an alien being removed by the government is not being deprived of life, liberty, and property and that the provisions of the Constitution securing the right to trial by jury, etc., do not apply. Then in 1953, the court in Shaughnessy versus the U.S. Noted that courts have long recognized the power to expel or exclude aliens as a fundamental sovereign attribute exercised by the government's political departments, immune from judicial control. Come back to me, guys. What does that mean? It means that Congress made the law. They made the law that you can have an administrative hearing to get rid of these people. You do not need a judicial warrant, and you do not need the typical due process that you see when someone, alien, legal alien or not, is charged with rape, murder, etc. Don't fall into that trap, folks, okay? So, let's go to that last, we got about 30 seconds here, that last one on that asset. It basically says, one more down, guys. In a nutshell, it says a large number of aliens who are illegal in the country fail to appear to their hearings, okay, because they know they have no valid reason for overcoming removal and staying in the country illegally. Back to me, guys. So listen, when you hear these pundits saying that we need due process, we need warrants, understand the whole picture. We're going to keep on calling them out and correcting them. Come back in 3 minutes. We're going to the next topic.
Most people think they have options when searching for the best deals when they travel. But here's the shocking truth. 100% of the major travel agencies are owned by just two entities, Expedia and Booking Holdings. They claim to offer the lowest rates, but due to the hotel rate parity agreement, they all have the same pricing, limiting genuine competition. When you book through these sites, you act as your own travel agent, but the profits are going to organizations that don't support our patriot values. We cannot allow that to continue. So, we decided to make travel great again by starting a US-based travel membership platform, mypatriottravel.com. We are patriots helping patriots. Together, we can disrupt the travel industry by not spending our hard-earned dollars supporting the radical left. For just $29.99 per month, you gain access to true wholesale rates on travel, saving you on average 35% and up to 65%. Book as often as you like, with no limits. Keep your hard-earned dollars in your pocket and spend them on things you need and want to support. Go to mypatriottravel.com/TAFW and grab your membership today. mypatriottravel.com/TAFW. Making travel great again.
Are you a true American? Then it's time to get connected. Download the America First Media and Television app and stay up to date with real news, bold voices, and live events from the America First Warehouse. From national broadcasts and exclusive shows to comedy nights, concerts, and special events. It's all right at your fingertips. No filters, no spin, just America First. Download the America First Media and Television app today and be part of the movement.
I'm sure you guys remember the platinum single, Justice for All, with Donald Trump and the J6 Prison Choir. Well, get ready for round two. We're coming out with Anthem of the Free with High Res and the J6 Prison Choir. It's coming out now. It's pre-sale until December 19th when it drops. Get yours on all platforms, Google Play, Apple iTunes. Get it. It's going to be hot.
Justice for all, our voices ring. The anthem of the free.
It's me, Joe the Box, the America First Warehouse, most patriotic venue in all the land.
The America First Warehouse, a beacon for all to see. A symbol of unity. For the patriots of America, we stand tall and free. The America First Warehouse, where our hearts will always be.
Hey, folks, you're back with Steve Levy. I'm your host of the On the Right Side podcast, coming to you every Wednesday at 2 o'clock live from the America First Warehouse here in Ronkonkoma. David Zare, my regular host, is out on assignment in the Pentagon. So we were talking about, in the last segment, about illegal immigration and how the Democrats and the liberals in the media gum up the works and spout just straight out inaccurate stuff in order to justify their quest to bring in as many illegal aliens as they can into this country and create electoral nirvana for the Democrats, figuring that these folks will eventually get citizenship and can vote for the people who let them in. So we're dispelling a lot of myths out there, such as ICE having to get a judicial warrant to get rid of these illegal aliens, and the fact that illegal aliens are not entitled to constitutional due process as a person charged with a crime would be when they're about to be deported. But there's another part of the whole immigration dilemma which is false and spews from, I've heard both liberals and conservatives spout this one. How many times have you heard this on some of these debate shows? Well, Barack Obama was the deporter-in-chief. Have you heard that a million times? Actually, he wasn't. Okay? Actually, this whole mess that we have today with illegal immigration really was lit on fire in the Obama administration. Look, it was bad going back for decade after decade, presidency after presidency. So many, from Clinton to Bush, they all looked the other way. The Republicans loved the cheap labor coming in. The Democrats loved their future voters coming in, and they were both see no evil, hear no evil. But the Republicans started to toughen up with this in later years. But this idea that Obama was the deporter-in-chief, it's an outright lie. Basically, what Obama did was change the definition of what a deportation is. Guys, let's go to my asset and go all the way to the last one in this second asset, if we can. I want to read to you what was said by the Heritage Foundation and some of these other groups. By the way, there's an amazing article. A wrong one, guys. It's let's go to the asset with immigration. This is not the Obama deal, but the one on immigration. All the way to the last one, if you would. Let me read this out to you folks. This is what was said by Alicia Nieves. You really have to check out this article that she wrote. It's called "The Moment Mass Immigration Started" in March of this year. Okay, she noticed that immigration judges who were employees of the Justice Department determined. That's the wrong assets, fellas. You can just come back to me. Okay, so here's what she wrote: Obama administration strategy, seeking to appear tougher on enforcement to gain support for immigration reform. Obama's Department of Homeland Security shifted toward formalizing these border encounters by processing border crosses as removals rather than simple returns. The administration's official deportation numbers reached record highs, nearly 3 million, by the end of his second term. So you see what happened is under the Bush administration, when the border enforcement people turned around a border crosser, an illegal border crosser, that wasn't deemed a deportation. It was a turnaround. But you were getting millions of these events every year. Obama just said, hey, let's start counting them as deportations. So the numbers exploded. Wow, he must be really tough on the border, right? No, he just renamed returns as deportations, and miraculously the numbers really increased high, okay? But here's the other thing that Ms. Nieves said, okay? The activists sought to connect two little-known elements of U.S. immigration policy. The first involved credible fear screening process, which requires immigration officials to interview migrants who claim they fear returning to their home countries. If an asylum officer determines that a migrant has a credible fear of persecution, the individual can present his asylum claim before the immigration judge. The second component, this is key, relied on the discretionary enforcement guidelines issued by the Obama administration. Catch this. Which allowed migrants who were not considered a flight risk or public safety threat to be released from detention while their cases continued. That changed everything. 2014. In the past, the illegal aliens came over the border and ran away from the Border Patrol officers. Now, in the Obama administration, the cartels understood, and this is what she says, cartels that controlled the crossing route seemed to recognize that the tactic could open a new market for families with children who had previously been deterred by more perilous desert crossing made by their male relatives. So now, these women, their children, everybody, they weren't crossing and running away. They were crossing and going right up to the guards and saying, I need what? Asylum. And when someone said that in the past, they'd get a quick hearing, they'd be turned around because 90% of them were thumbs down. But Obama, in his discretion right there, started this all, put it on fire by using his discretion to say, well, as long as they're not a flight risk and we don't deem them criminal, let them stay and we'll give them a hearing. And that opened the floodgates, folks. There was another instance with unaccompanied minors. This was a program that was designed to separate the children who were carried across the line by coyotes for the sex trade. It was passed in the Bush administration. It was designed to separate them so that that child who was being abused and neglected would not have to go back with the coyote, okay? That was taken advantage of by the Obama administration and the cartels as well. Because now they said, oh, you're an unaccompanied minor, no matter who you are, if you're unaccompanied, you get to stay here. And it flooded in. It went from a few thousand to hundreds of thousands of people coming in. Now, here's the big one. There's a case that was brought by the ACLU in 2014 that lingered into 2015. Really, really important. The ACLU made the claim before this court that, hey, courts, you cannot let the government to hold these people who are cross the border illegally and claim asylum. You have to let them out into society. Well, lo and behold, some liberal court says, okay, we agree with you. You can't hold them. Now, this was one of these lower court loonies where the Obama administration could have appealed it to go all the way up to the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court would most likely say, that's baloney. As soon as you allow an individual claiming asylum to roam free in America for years, you will have opened the floodgates, because the word would go out to the rest of the world, just come to the border, claim asylum, they'll let you in, they can't detain you for more than a few weeks, and then you're free to stay here basically forever until your hearing comes up, which is going to be a decade down the road, and then nothing will happen anyway. You see what happened thereafter, okay? Could have appealed it, and we would have won in the Supreme Court. What did Obama do? He caved. He just accepted that decision because he knew that's what his left flank with the ACLU and all the illegal immigration lobbyists wanted him to do. It's the same thing that happened with the Unaccompanied Minors Act. Obama initially believed that this is wrong. We can't have these 10-year-olds coming over here escorted by cartel members and let them in claiming they're unaccompanied minors. We have to tighten up the wording of that Bush law, okay? He actually drafted legislation to do it. But what happened? It was never introduced. Why? because the ACLU and his leftward flank put the heat on him, and he folded like a cheap tent. So that's the real history of what happened with the explosion of illegal immigration in this country. It was not Obama, the deporter-in-chief. It was Obama, the administration, that lit the fuse for illegal immigration. Now, of course, he's succeeded by Trump, who started to fight back with the Remain in Mexico and really starting to toughen up. He's only in for 4 years. Biden comes in and was much worse than Biden even was. Obama was. But Biden was so blatant. He basically said in his campaign, we want a surge at the border, basically allowed these people to come over, not only said, we'll give you a ticket to go to any city you want and pay for your food and your hotel and everything else, but we'll give you work papers. And now he and the Democrats claim, oh, well, they're here legally now. They have work papers. Well, Biden never had that authority in the first place to do this. So it's all a canard. Started with Obama, was put into the stratosphere with Biden, and now we see with Trump, it was always reversible if you just had a president who wanted to follow the lead of the American people to say, close the darn border. Okay, we're going to talk more about Obama in the next section, and that's with his awful Obama-Iran nuke deal. We're going to dispel a lot of myths in the next section. Be right back in 3 minutes.
You've worked hard and saved, but inflation and increased money supply are eroding your buying power. Protect and grow your wealth with physical gold
Can we
and
make
silver.
sure that we have the
Sound Money.
Right
With a
asset
Sound
on the
Money wallet,
Obama
your wealth stays
nuke deal?
in your
Maybe,
control. Buy fractionally,
it up right
vault
now?
securely, ship directly, and instantly liquidate your gold and silver at the highest buyback price in the industry. Real money, real ownership. Visit tafwsoundmoney.info or scan the QR code and start securing your financial future today.
The America First Ultra MAGA Store. For all your MAGA needs. We sell t-shirts, tumblers, flags, hats, sneakers, bumper stickers, and a whole lot more. The most patriotic America First retail store. The America First Ultra MAGA Store.
How's it going, y'all? I'm Bill Clinton. Now instead of a poke, you're getting a smack. What have I done?
Wolfman, you're up.
It's ma'am. I can't just tell you this stuff.
I got hairy legs. They turn blonde in the summer.
Because we're gonna treat you like family.
I'm pretty sure I'm a woman.
No, you're not, Steve.
Do you like camping? The entire city is your campground.
There is no law. Anything goes. It's a ditty cruise.
Corporate transfer. Fine professional, moving and storage, and inventory management.
America First Warehouse was really the most patriotic venue that you can ever imagine. We wanted to build something for people to be able to come to and feel so comfortable and so relaxed because there was nothing out there like it. We give an opportunity for people to really feel good about themselves and about this great country.
Hey folks, Steve Levy here. Welcome back to the America First Warehouse. Hey, in some of those commercials, you might have seen the push to buy gold and precious metals. A great point. When the world is as volatile as it is now, it really is a good idea. I did it myself, and I'm glad I did because I'm winning pretty well with it. So go to soundmoney.com, and you will be able to see what we in the America First Warehouse are doing with getting wealthy through the purchase of gold. Okay. I just took a whole segment in the last 15 minutes to dispel this myth from the libs out there that Obama was the deporter-in-chief. He was not. But there's another myth that they're purveying about Obama right now. And that is as it pertains to the Iran, what's going on in Iran. They're critical about Trump. And whenever a Republican pundit will come back and say, well, what's your plan? What would you do to stop Iran from getting a nuke? And they fall back on this one. You know it. You've seen it. You've heard it. If we just stayed in President Obama's deal with Iran that he put together in 2015, all would be good and they wouldn't have a weapon right now. What a bunch of malarkey, to use Joe Biden's word, okay? That deal was one of the worst negotiated deals in the history of negotiations. It did not prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. It legitimized Iran in getting a nuclear weapon. What it all came down to was Obama wanted one thing. He wanted something for his foreign policy legacy at all costs, and he wanted to be able to say, not that he stopped Iran from getting a nuke, but that he stopped Iran from getting a nuke on his watch. That's all he cared about. He was going to punt it to the next president, just as all the other presidents before Obama punted it to him. So he was desperate for a deal, and it was obvious that he was desperate for a deal. Let's go to that asset and show what was written in the Washington Institute for Near East Policy, okay? Okay, one of the things they say here, to start, it's important to note how far the Iran issue has evolved from the days when far-sighted lawmakers first passed administrations to impose sanctions on the Islamic Republic for its program. Original diplomacy with Iran was supposed to be based on straight trade-off. America would end nuclear-related sanctions while Iran would end its domestic program, okay? But this is what actually happened. Back to me, guys. It started off that Obama and Kerry, John Kerry, as Secretary of State, went to the Iranians, and I would have liked this. Hey, if you guys agree to never have a nuclear program, weapons or domestic, that you can then enrich into weapons, we'll end the sanctions and, we'll go back to some kind of normalcy, right? I think most reasonable people can go along with that as long as there's verification, et cetera. That's not what happened. When it was originally pitched, the Iranians said, no way. You're not going to stop us from having a domestic nuclear program. So Obama and Kerry said, oh, okay. All right, you can have a domestic program, but you can't have centrifuges. And the Iranians say, get out of here. You're not going to tell us we can't have centrifuges. So Obama and Kerry say, okay, you can have centrifuges. Then the Obama goes back to them and say, but you can't have enriched uranium, okay? And they say, don't tell us we can't have enriched uranium. Obama said, okay, we'll give you some enriched uranium, but not enough for a bomb. And they go back and forth with this. And it was so darn obvious that all Obama wanted was a deal at any cost. And from Trump and his art of the deal, the first step in negotiations is never be afraid to walk away from a bad deal. And so many editorialists from the Wall Street Journal to the New York Post have opined that this was a deal that should have been walked away from, because They were so desperate to get a deal, were Obama and Kerry, that they caved in and basically told the Iranians, all right, just you agree to delay your nuclear bomb ambitions for 10 years or so, and we'll not only end all the sanctions, we'll give you pallets of cash. It's exactly what those suckers did. Obama and Kerry gave untold money to the Iranians that made them stronger, wealthier, and allowed them to expand their terrorism and hegemony within that particular region. Trump comes in, puts back the sanctions, weakens them. Biden comes back, ends the sanctions, makes them strong again. You got October 7th and all the other problems with Yemen, Hezbollah, etc., right? So let's put up the asset where the New York Post notes that even Obama himself, let's go all the way to the bottom, guys, next asset. Obama himself, one more, in the New York Post, you show that a little, it shows that Obama notes that when his deal ends in 10 years, okay, 10, 12, up to 13 years, it graduates, that it would cut the nuke time to near zero for Iran. Obama admitted himself this was merely a delay tactic. Give them all this money. Come back to me, guys. Give them all of this money. Just delay your enrichment programs, and then they'll have zero time in which to make a bomb. Who signs a deal like that? Yet the pundits on all of these debate shows are trying to come up with this garbage. Oh, well, Trump shouldn't have gone in there militarily. If he just left that alone, they wouldn't have nukes. Wrong. Not only would they have nukes, but they would have been legitimate in the eyes of the international community, because Iran can say, hey, we stuck with your delay, now it's our time. Unbelievable. So this is why Trump had to go in. And now you're going to hear so many of these pundits that it wasn't imminent. You had this guy Kent, Joe Kent, who is in counterintelligence under Gabbard, resigned yesterday in protest. Oh, I can't see it was imminent. This was a war of choice forced upon us by Israel. What a bunch of malarkey. First, this guy Kent, very strange dude. He's running for office. It's pretty obvious. Look at some of his posts in the past. They're very sketchy as to who he aligns himself with. But, he's now aligning himself with the far, far right that is really an anti-Semitic wing of the Republican Party. And it's really scary for anyone to say that Israel is pulling the strings of Donald Trump has got to be kidding. First of all, you got to look back, and the good producers out there dragged up all of Trump's quotes going back to the 1980s, saying you cannot let Iran get a nuclear weapon. We're going to go after them. And it's exactly what he's doing. He didn't need Israel to make him do that, okay? But Trump blocked Israel from making an attack months ago. So Israel knows that they have to run things by Trump. They don't dictate to Trump. This is another one of their tropes just to make it appear that this was an unnecessary war. And they say it wasn't imminent. Well, folks, what is imminent? Here's their finger. Here's the button, okay? Is it imminent now? 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 Is it imminent now? The point is, when it comes to Iran having a nuclear weapon, and every president and presidential candidate going back for 40 years has said they would never allow Iran to get a nuke, they're saying it's not imminent. Well, how do you know exactly? You get intelligence to say they have enough for 11 bombs very shortly. Here's the key. Is it better to be a day early on your attack to wipe them out, or a day late? If you're a day early, No harm, no foul. No big deal. If you're a day late, millions of people, including hundreds of thousands of Americans, can be dead. So you have one shot. You get them while they're weakened. And then good for Trump to call out the Europeans for their lackluster support in trying to keep the Strait of Hormuz open, okay? They're saying it's not their war. Okay, it's not your war. So we Americans should not be using our military to escort their ships out. We should only escort the ships out for those countries who are supportive of us, not Spain, who's not letting us use their bases, or some of these others who are saying, well, it's really not our war. We don't want to get involved. Okay, Trump was right. He called their bluff. These guys have created a welfare state for the last 50 years on our backs. Now, I think the best way diplomatically to deal with this is as Marco Rubio did, saying it as though we're all as one. We have to work together. We have a shared goal in fighting this axis of evil, but you have to pick up your weight and help us when we need you. It's not just a matter of, hey, yeah, we support you, haha. No, we want to see your ships in there sweeping for mines as well. A lot of hypocrisy out there, folks. We're going to wrap it up with one more section in 3 minutes. We'll talk about a lot of current events, so we'll see you back after the commercial.
Have you noticed your money just doesn't stretch like it used to? Your paycheck feels lighter, and your savings aren't growing. The culprits? Inflation and increased money supply. They've both been quietly eating away at your purchasing power for years. Today, the dollar's value has dropped significantly. You feel it every time you spend money on goods and services. Back in 1965, $1 or an ounce of silver could buy you a gallon of milk. Fast forward to today. That same dollar barely buys a couple of coffee creamers, while an ounce of silver would get you 8 gallons of milk. Gold and silver have held their value for centuries. If you had 2,500 ounces of silver back in 1965, you could buy a brand new Ford Mustang. Today, 2,500 ounces of silver would buy you 2 Mustangs. Similarly, in the year 2000, 628 ounces of gold would buy a new $170,000 home. Today, 628 ounces would buy you a $2,500,000 home. The problem? 95% of Americans don't own physical gold or silver. They think it's too complicated and too expensive, but it doesn't have to be. We offer a membership program that allows you to buy gold or silver with as little as $1. You can buy fractional amounts, safely vault them, or have them delivered to your doorstep, and you can liquidate them whenever you want at the highest buyback price in the industry. Ready to protect your wealth and keep your purchasing power? Scan the QR code or go to tafw.soundmoney.com to learn more.
If the vote count is accurate, then how come the number of voters is different? And if it's not accurate, then why was it certified? We are suing Letitia James and the New York State Board of Elections for a conspiracy against fundamental rights. This is not about who won. It's not about what party. It's about the fact that they don't care about your rights.
Live from Studio 6B on a Friday night, live at the America First Warehouse. Live at the America First Warehouse on a Friday, Real America's Voice, all across the country, 103.9 LI News Radio, all across your radio, Suffolk County, Long Island.
It's me, Joe the Box, and I'm John the Blanket with the America First Podcast.
That's what I'm talking about. The Fred Rubino Podcast coming to you from the America First Warehouse.
Welcome back to the America First Warehouse. What we're still doing? Fighting! Every day, all day long.
Welcome to the Patriots Podcast. Good evening, everyone.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the On the Right Side podcast here at the America First Warehouse in Long Island, New York.
Shane Jenkins here with another episode of Liberty's Cage.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to our podcast, Red, Right, and True.
We are streaming live on America First Media and Television app.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Kevin Downey Jr. Podcast. Be free, stay free.
The America First Warehouse, where our hearts will always be.
Hey, folks, welcome back to On the Right Side podcast. We're here every Wednesday, 2 p.m. live. I'm usually here with my co-host David Zaire from Real America's Voice, but he's on assignment in the Pentagon this week. I'm Steve Levy. I'm your every week host, and I am the former Suffolk County Executive, New York State Assemblyman, a writer for Newsmax. You can see all of my stuff on stevelevy.info, the commentary I write for the Washington Times, Washington Examiner, Newsmax, New York Post. You'll see my writings in all of those periodicals from time to time. And I'm also the executive director of the think tank Center for Cost-Effective Government. So while I'm on my own this week, I've been trying to educate the public so I can give you sound bites that you can go into battle and debates with some of your liberal friends on things from illegal immigration to Iran. And speaking of Iran, a couple of other things I wanted to talk about, what's going on right now. And then we're going to get into a little lightning round of some current events. But I think it's going to get to a point where we're going to have to up the ante, where right now we're hitting select targets in Iran, all military targets. And I'm not saying we want to shift toward going after civilians because, you want to have the civilians on your side in Iran with the hope that they would revolt against their tyrannical government, but it's easier said than done. However, there's an advantage for the terrorists in Iran because they can lob their bombs at citizens in residents, private citizens in Israel. They can attack our people here in America who have nothing to do with this war, but we don't retaliate in kind. But what we can do, and I think we should do, is we have to start taking out their infrastructure. There has to be pain felt, not death, but there has to be pain throughout the nation. That means taking out their bridges, taking out their electric supply. I know there's a reticence to do that, but that regime is going to stay unless you create a climate and conditions where the natives are so restless that they're willing to get out of their houses with pitchforks and create a new regime. So I think you're going to be seeing that in the weeks ahead, folks, as well as a possible takeover of that island off of Iran that supplies 95% of all their power needs. My little thoughts on Iran. Let's see if that comes to pass over the next couple of weeks. One last thing with Iran. The women of Iran have been subjugated to repression for decades with this regime that took power in 1979. And what happened at these World Games, a number of their soccer players said, we want asylum. And they refused to sing the anthem of Iran, which was oppressing them. And wouldn't you think that Megan Rapinoe, the outspoken head of the women's soccer team, U.S. soccer team, who couldn't wait to criticize America by kneeling for our anthem, don't you think this was the perfect opportunity for her, or Greta Thunberg, who's so concerned about Palestinians, doesn't give a damn about the women in Iran, or all of the people oppressed in Iran? They don't give a damn about the Uyghurs over in China who are in concentration camps because they're Muslims. It's only when it's whites, in their mind, subjugating people of color, that to them is a story. But where people of color are subjugating other people of color in real time, really happening, not a fake stuff, they're totally silent, which shows that it's all a game to them. It's not really about freedom and ending oppression. So shame on you, Megan Rapinoe, and all of you lefties in Hollywood who are at the Oscars, Javier Bardem, with your free Palestine and no war statements, okay? How about free the Iranians from the mullahs? Nothing to be said there, you bunch of hypocrites. Couple of other things going on. Hey, did you see that CNN reporter, epitomizing the bias in the media? She goes on the Stephen Colbert show. And this is a CNN reporter saying that she was deeply embarrassed about her nation and like was trashing America for the way we were announcing the success of our military efforts. If that doesn't underscore, folks, how biased this mainstream media is in this country, nothing else will. So hopefully there'll be a lot of pushback on that horrible reporter who should lose her job, not because she took the wrong stand, but because she took a stand when she shouldn't. She wasn't a commentator. She was a reporter. There's a difference. You want to do editorials? Go be a pundit. You're a reporter. Be objective. Right or left, you don't inject your opinion. Okay? Now we've got, what is Iran brought? High prices in oil, right? Of course. You have a war. You have problems going on in the Strait. There's going to be volatility in the market. All of a sudden, the libs in the media and the Democrats are apoplectic that, oh my God, gas prices are up. These are the same guys who are happy to tax gasoline for decades in California. They have the highest gasoline rates in the country on purpose. They tax gas because they don't want people to use gas. They want to make it more economically feasible for solar and wind and all the other inefficient methods to be on par with fossil fuels. But now they don't like the idea that gas prices are high. Why? Because we're trying to prevent Iran from getting nukes from killing us. These guys are out of their minds. It just goes to show there's no consistency in their message or their ideology. It's all, what is Trump saying? We're going to say the opposite, which gets us to the SAVE Act. Trump rightly wants to get control over the voting process. Anyone who tells you that the 2020 election was the safest on record is an idiot. It was the least safe in history. I never say it was a stolen election because I don't really know what the final tally was because there were so many irregularities in that election. There was lawsuit after lawsuit that were won by the plaintiffs where secretaries of state illegally allowed for drop boxes that weren't signed off by the legislature or making presumptions that signatures on write-in ballots mail-in ballots were valid. We had example after example of these irregularities where changes were made to allow the acceptance of ballots well after the election when the legislature never approved it. So the SAVE Act says that we don't want people who are not legally eligible to vote to wind up voting. What the heck is wrong with that? ID. Oh, the Democrats say it's Jim Crow, right? So I'm asking myself, I just had to go down to DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles, for my enhanced license, right? And everybody else in my state did, and I think they had to do it around the country. You had to bring proof of who you are. You had to have a photo ID. You had to have a passport, a birth certificate, whatever it was, to get the enhanced ID. So why can women, why can minorities, why can guys like me get an ID to register that way for an enhanced ID card, but you can't to vote? It's all made up, folks. These people are lying because, again, they want to cheat. That's why they want dead people on the rolls and they don't want to purge them. That's why they want ballot harvesting. That's why they want drop boxes and mail-in balloting that breaks the chain of custody with the person and the Board of Election, the voter and the Board of Election. It really, really is quite scary. Okay. Oh, by the way, they say it's voter suppression. Remember the last time they said it was going to be voter suppression? It's when Georgia changed their voting procedures and Florida changed their voting procedures a few years ago after the 2020 debacle. Well, they required ID. They required if you're going to do a mail-in, you have to put the last four of your social or some kind of photo ID. Guess what? Voter participation, even among minorities, went up, not down. So much for your Jim Crow. Okay? Now, getting to another point. The socialist mayor of New York, the Marxist mayor of New York. A lot of buyer's remorse here. The latest one, not only the 9.9% property tax increase that he wants. Did you hear this one, folks? People living in New York City, he wants to increase the estate tax so that when you die and you have an estate over like $750,000, which is not a big deal anymore if you own a home, it's going to get taxed up the wazoo, up to 50%. Say goodbye, your kids who thought that they were going to have that nest egg to buy their home or to have a little bit of comfort in life. Nope. It's going to go into Mandami's hands and go to illegal aliens and pay for their daycare and pay for their college education and their health care and who knows what else. Really, really, really disgusting, folks. And I'm going to end it on this. If you don't think we're in trouble in the Western world, ladies and gentlemen, England, with their new socialist leaders, just tossed Winston Churchill, the hero of World War II, the man who saved us from Nazism and totalitarianism. He was thrown off their money paper because he's a white man from way back when who represents colonialism and racism. Can't make it up, folks. Stay with us next week. We're going to keep battling for real Americans. You've been watching On the Right Side podcast with Steve Levy. We'll see you in a week. Bye-bye.
First Warehouse, a beacon for all to see, a symbol of hope, a symbol of unity. For the patriots of America, we stand tall and free in the America First Warehouse, where our hearts will always be. The America First Warehouse, a beacon for all.